Hi, today we're going to be painting quite an iconic European car, the Citroen 2CV. So you need a few things before we start. So you need a pencil, you need an A4 pad of paper. For best results, use a watercolor paper of more than 180 grams per square meter or more. 0.1 millimeter fine liner pen. I mean, if you've got a thinner one or a slightly thicker, up to 0.3 millimeters, that's absolutely fine. Some watercolor paints and some water soluble brush pens available from any art store. So we're going to make a start. Now, when I do some more of these videos, I'm going to go straight to ink because the pencil marks aren't that clear. But if you start off with the headlights, and because this car is facing towards our right, we start with the left headlight, which is going to be nearest to us. Now, when you draw the headlight, put it in the center of your page. Remember, it's not a circle, it's an oval, which is taller than it's wide. Okay? You can see that little pipe coming down underneath it. Then underneath the headlight, some way to the right, you have the little side light. Now go down from that directly underneath the side light, not quite as far down as the distance between the headlight and the side light, and that's where we're going to start our bumper. That's a gently curving line going up towards the right, and this should be about half the distance from the side light to the right hand edge of your page. Now above that, in the center of that line you've just drawn, we're going to draw the license plate or the number plate, and then a small curving line from just past the left hand side of the number plate up to join up with the headlight. Now underneath the side light on the left, can you just curve the bumper down, and then I want you to draw a curving line coming up towards the left until it's level with the side light, and that's the edge of the fender. Okay, so you can see we've got quite a bit sketched in now. Now you started the edge of the fender last time. Can you now curve that up with it curving slightly more away to the left? And the curve should, the top of the curve should be level with the center of the headlight. Now if you look at the other end, the right hand end of the bumper, now I want you to draw a curving line up from that, but when you get to about the center of the headlight, the level of the center of the headlight on the left, you draw a smaller oval than the other headlight, and this is going to be our right hand headlight. Now you've already done a huge amount of getting the face of the car right. Now above the number plate, the license plate, can you see there's the radiator grille there? Now start from the left hand side. I want you to make a mark just above the top edge of the number plate, just in from the left hand corner. Now that line needs to curve up and to, not curve, sorry, needs to go diagonally up to the right, to the left slightly. Then I want you to do one the other side, again not quite to the edge of the number plate, curving up this time to the right slightly, and then a convex curve joining the two of those up. Now from the top right hand corner of the number plate, you do another curving line which goes up very slightly to the right, and then when it comes level with the center of the right hand headlight, curve it back round to the left, because this is going to be the bonnet or the hood. Okay, now going back to the left hand headlight, Now, can you draw a line down from the center of the little tube holding up the headlight to just to the left of the bottom left-hand corner of the license plate? And then I want you to maybe draw that curve going right through the headlight, because you can rub out the bit in the headlight after, down to the point where it's level with, it's as far left as the top of the curve of the fender, what's going to be the wheel arch. Okay, quite a bit to do now. Now I want you to find a space on the no, we'll do the bottom of the front bumper first, silly me. Okay, so you can see where you drew the line of the bumper. Now I want you to go down slightly and draw another line exactly parallel to it all the way along its length, and that's the bottom edge of the bumper. You can do 2 more lines inside it, which will guide us for when we make the black strip on the bumper. Now I want you to take a spot on the bottom edge of the bumper, make a little dot, maybe about of a quarter of a way from the bottom right hand corner of the number plate, and I want you to curve that round, meeting the bumper underneath the right hand fender, and that's the front wheel. Now we can do one on the other side now. Now the easiest way to do it would be if you draw the oval, which is going to be the hubcap. Now that's got to be much taller than it is wide. The closest part will be the bottom of the fender, almost where it starts curving round to meet the bumper. And that's not going to be the oval is going to be half the downwards curve of the oval will finish just below that, and then curve it back round to meet at the top. Now you can draw a semicircle, which is going to be the edge of the tyre, and if you see, that comes close to the left hand side of the oval and then splays out a little bit, flat at the bottom and coming a little bit of the way up to meet the bumper. Can you see underneath the bumper I've made those 2 lines on the side as well, which is going to be the underside of the car. Now we're going to take the fender on the left, the wheel arch, and extend it further down to about 3/4 of the way down the tyre, and then curve it back in to meet the tyre wall. Now can you see there's a convex curve, a very gentle convex curve joining the top of the bumper? That is actually, sorry, the top of the bonnet, and you can draw that now. Then instead of having another convex curve parallel to it, I want you to take a straight line from the left hand edge of the top of the bonnet to just past the center. Actually, you can even go a little bit further to about halfway between the center and the right hand edge of the bonnet. Do a little dot there and then draw that slanting line coming upwards, slanting to the left, because that's the edge of the car. Do a similar line on the left, but not slanting quite as much. Join those 2 up square and then draw a couple of outlines inside that outline, and that's going to make the rubber seal of the windscreen. The face of the car is now complete. You've done wonders if you've come this far in 10 minutes. I should have said at the start, of course, pause the video when you need time to make the lines. Once you've got the face of the car, it's so easy to make the rest of the shape. Can you see from the top left hand corner of the windscreen or the windshield, we're going to curve up to the left and then round and back down in a very lazy sort of arc, which gets steeper and steeper as it comes down. You want to end that line on about the same level, the same height as the top of the front wheel arch. Now you need to make another line curving down and in, not quite an opposite curve to the nearest line, which is the left hand edge of the wheel arch, but getting on that way, and then a diagonal from not quite the bottom of the front fender back to meet that line you've just drawn. Then another curve out towards the left, curving quite steeply and then almost straight down, and a curvy diagonal to meet up to form the rear, I don't know what you call that, fender, the rear cover of the rear wheel. A semicircle, a thin semicircle to make the hubcap, and another one outside it to make the wheel, and you've got the shape of your 2CV. So can you have a look and see I've put a line which is just over halfway between the two fenders from the bottom, slanting up slightly to the right, almost to the top of the curve, and that's where the door is. Now either side of that you're going to make the windows. Now the bottom edge of the windows slant down from about the bottom edge of the windscreen and not quite as far as the door line. So draw lines parallel to the door line on either side and then curve it round following the edge of the roof, though you shouldn't have gone quite as far as the roof, till you get to the windscreen, and then a straight line down to meet the bottom. And there's even more of a curve on the rear window, as you can see, but also you've got to make sure that you leave just a little bit of room for that sort of almost curving teardrop shaped window right at the back. And when you've done that, you have pretty much got your 2CV. Now on future videos, as I say, I'm going to use ink rather than starting with pencil. But to make it easier to see, I did go over these outlines in ink. So you can see I outlined the main lines, and there we are. I inked in the rest of them. So have a good check with that and see, does yours look like this? It should by now. I also drew in some more detail on the hubcap, which you can possibly see there too. Now this is a stage where we're going to get to the really fun part, the painting. I mixed up some mid blue and some crimson, but first I used the fine liner just to go over some of the darken some of the rubber seals, particularly the one around the windscreen. So let's start painting. I always start with the tyres and wheel arch. And with this is great fun because you can be as sloppy and as messy as you like, and it will only add to the overall effect. I've got a very, very dark blue, black and crimson colour scheme, which the main body of the car and the fenders is going to be. So I went a little bit wild with the wheel arches. You can see I've used that yellow there and also blue and grey, and they've kind of mingled together, and absolutely don't feel you have to stick between the lines either. We're trying to give it a little bit of texture and energy by doing this. This first stage as well, all watercolor. We don't need the brush pens yet. So the bodywork came next. I used this, which is actually the darkest blue I've got in my paint set. Everywhere I've painted that is going to be black, but I'll show you why I put the blue under first in a little while. The crimson is pretty much going to stay as it is, But while it was, I allowed it to almost dry, and then I just used the same colour to paint the lines, the ridges you can see on the bonnet, and that's actually worked out quite well. I'm really rather pleased with that. You can see I let the crimson seep into the blue underneath the front bumper, and there's that strange blobby shape happened when water dropped off the end of the brush. Accidents like that are going to happen, and don't worry, incorporate them into your picture. Don't try and hide them, is my advice. So from here now, also you can see I've used grey for the interior through the windscreen, but I let the crimson from just underneath the windscreen seep up and through into that, and I quite like that. Now this is pretty much all the watercolor paint which I'm going to put on. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm sorry Dave, that looks messy. Yeah, you're quite right, it does at this stage. But that's really not to worry about, because the work we're going to do now and towards the end will sort that out, no problem. So you need your watercolor brush, your water brush pen. Try again. You need your brush pens, your water soluble brush pens. There's a transformation. So what I did was I've gone around the edges everywhere I painted blue. I've gone around the edges and then used a watery brush to spread the black colour, and that's created these highlights. It's still much darker than the blue was, but there's just the hint of that blue shining through, which gives it like a purpley highlight. I really like it. I think it's really effective, and it was a bit of an experiment. I wasn't sure it was going to work. And immediately you should be able to see now that this is looking more like a finished product. I used the brush pen. If you look right at the bottom of the fender, on front fender on the left, I used the black brush pen just to darken the bottom, and then a watery brush to pull the grey up. We've lost the yellow on the fender, but I left it there on the tyre, and it does work. Looking at my photographs I was working from, the fender really needed, the inside of the wheel arch really needed to be a lot darker than it was. Okay, I can also see I've added some detailing on the strip at the bottom of the car on the side, which I'd left just blue. I hadn't put any of the black brush pen over it. And there we are, that's the finished stage. I've used the fine liner to ink in quite a lot of the details. If you look at the headlights, for example, I've inked in the lines and just some marks and some hatching on that. I've drawn in the radiator grille and also the number plate. I put the black line on the fender, and again darken the front tyres. I felt, looking at the photographs, it really needed that, and written down that it's a 2CV and signed it. And there you go. If you have had a go at this tutorial, I'd love to see what you've come up with. If you go to my blog, which is artdaveclark@blogspot.com, and why not post on the comments box with the 2CV? Why not post a photograph of what you've done? You can also see as well maybe that I just used a red brush pen to add some more darkening and highlighting on the side of the bonnet and also on the top and on the ridges, and I think that's quite effective. Okay, I'll see you next time. Meanwhile, we'll just have a look at all of those stages speeded up again.